at the end of the FMS course here in Israel, Tel Aviv, with Dr. רוברט באטלר. We'd appreciate it if you could explain to the viewers a little bit about FMS and what they can expect when they attend an FMS course.
Sure. So the functional movement screen is a basic way to assess how the body moves in 7 different postures. Takes about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, and it's really applicable to anyone who can follow directions. So we often refer to the FMS as not sport specific or age specific or gender specific, but really species specific. We base these movements off of fundamental movement patterns. Each pattern we try to look at for basic competency or deficits. The deficits we can boil down to typically a motor control or mobility deficit. And as a result of that deficit, we can apply appropriate intervention to improve the overall functional movement pattern, or really fundamental movement pattern. The only weight that we ask that the person resist during this period is their own body weight. So very similar to activities of daily living, we expect them to control their own body weight in a very specific and standardized way. Without the functional movement screen, there are not many ways to systematically assess movement in a very short period of time with very little technology. The FMS just has standards associated with various movements that allow for discussion of movement and improvement in movement and standards of movement across practitioners of all level, from fitness to medical doctor to physio to chiro and anywhere in between, to maximize and optimize the human potential of movement in the individuals we work with.
Can you elaborate a little bit about the fitness pyramid and how FMS fits within the framework of working with individuals?
Sure. We think about the fitness pyramid as really a foundation of movement on which we build performance and on which skill is a piece of. Everything we do has some sort of order and some sort of pattern associated with that. But just like a house, you need a much broader foundation, then you have various stories on top of the house. So movement is simply the basis from which we really began all of our basic and higher level movement patterns as we had as children, adults, and even later on in life. So we want to create a nice broad foundation to allow for optimal performance and optimal skill to build upon that basic movement foundation.
Okay, if you can explain to people who are considering attending an FMS course what they should expect from attending the FMS 1 and 2 course. What's the content?
So the most important thing from an FMS 1 and 2 course is learning how to do the FMS. The FMS should be thought of, the functional movement screen should be thought of blood pressure for movement. A basic screen that if you get wrong or is miscalibrated will give you misinformation. So the most important thing is to figure out how to do an FMS reliably in a standard way that creates standard operating procedures, so you can have reliable and valid discussions across practitioners and across individuals. After that understanding of the basic screen, we go into some fundamental criteria for how we would look about improving or correcting a given pattern, as well as discussing when it's appropriate to start conditioning and implementing a pattern. There's a very basic discussion of that with the level 1 content, and the level 2 content goes even further into how we further screen movement to look at more specific areas related to movement deficits or areas to optimize performance in the individual's movement, as well as looking at higher level correctives and strengthening strategies based upon the fundamental movements that are the basis of the functional movement screen.